Creed 2, directed by Steven Caple Jr. and co-written by Sylvester Stallone himself, picks up after the events of Creed 1, where aspiring boxer Adonis Creed attempts to make a name for himself. This time around, Creed, played by Michael B. Jordan once again, is the heavyweight champion of the world, and he's faced with his toughest test yet, Victor Drago, son of Ivan Drago, who famously killed Adonis' father in the ring. As Adonis prepares to face Victor Drago in the ring, he's also facing some personal challenges in his life as well. He's about to become a father, and those around him are having health problems. As Adonis prepares to square off against Victor Drago, he realizes he needs to mature in order to achieve the greatness he seeks. Alright, so I'd be hard-pressed to find a film I was more excited for this year other than Avengers Infinity War. I absolutely love the first Creed film. I think it's probably in my top 25 or so movies ever. It's definitely one of my favorite sports movies ever. There's no question about that. And I just went into this film with some pretty massive expectations, because I just felt the first one was so amazing and this one looked like a strong and dramatic continuation of the Adonis Creed journey. I walked out of the theater slightly disappointed and conflicted, but not completely let down. This isn't a bad film, but it's not the great one I expected it to be either. It's somewhere in between, like sequels sometimes tend to fall. There's definitely things to like here for sure, but there's also things that happened that left me a little bit cold because I felt as if Ryan Coogler's direction was sorely missed here. And again, Steven Caple Jr. didn't do a bad job with this film, but I think Ryan Coogler is just such an amazing director with such a talent, and I just felt his direction was missed here, especially when it came to creating a rewarding emotional journey like the first film did. I found Creed 2 to be uneven. This film really just didn't hook me in its early stages, but I found myself pretty locked in, engaged during the final act or so. I think the film doesn't really do the small things well. There's things it does, like edit music into scenes that feel like they need to be subtle and raw and empty of music like that, and even subplots that feel like they don't necessarily lead anywhere. And even as for a big thing, there is a predictability to this whole story that doesn't quite work as well this time around. With a lot of films like this, you can kind of have a general idea as to where things are going to go, but this one you can almost see beat for beat from a mile away and how it's going to turn out. Predictability isn't always a bad thing, but I think it is here considering it doesn't cover too much new territory that the first one already covered itself. I think this film just doesn't quite have the heart that the original film had, and it doesn't mean it has no heart, it still has a pretty good amount, but it's not quite the emotional underdog story that the first one offers. It's just not quite as engaging. But that said, there are some things I did really like about it. For one, the performances are great. I found Michael B. Jordan to be as awesome and as charismatic as ever in the role of Adonis, and I found everyone else around him to be pretty great also. I think through and through, this is a very well-acted film with a lot of talented actors involved. I think what I was most impressed with were the range the actors were able to show off over the course of the film. It's weird to think that a lot of these actors, particularly Michael B. Jordan, Tessa Thompson, and Sylvester Stallone as the big three, they do dig a little bit deeper and they impress that much more with their layered performances, but yet the film doesn't feel as emotional as it did the first time around. It's almost like some of the editing choices and the direction of the film itself don't quite maximize the quality of those performances. I think those three actors I mentioned do some pretty great things here. And I also thought the Drago family did a great job as well. Dolph Lundgren brings that intimidating presence to an aging Ivan Drago, and his son Victor Drago is every bit the villain he should be. Now, I do think they definitely try to humanize them a bit more, so you try to understand why they're so angry, but I honestly think it doesn't happen enough. They wait until too late in the film to throw that element into the mix, and it's almost too late at that point. Again, this is another area where I consider the film to be good, where it could have been slightly better or even great with a little bit better direction. I did feel like the arcs for the characters were mostly satisfying overall, though. I feel like this is a mostly satisfying story that doesn't quite reach the heights that many were hoping for, but it still provides a considerable amount of development for those characters. This is a sequel through and through, and that it gives, Adonis an even greater challenge than he faced the first go-round, and they try to add some complications so that he has to dig that much deeper to potentially achieve his career goals. I did like seeing some of the lows Adonis experiences in the film, and how he attempts to overcome those lows with the help of those around him. Michael B. Jordan just brings a lot to this role through his performance that displays Adonis as a fighter, with a massive chip on his shoulder. But this time around, he does become a bit more arrogant, a bit less grateful to those that surround him, so a lot of his journey focuses on him regaining what made him great in the first place. I think there's definitely a lot to like when it comes to the writing for the characters. They're taken to satisfying places. The final act is also awesome. Unsurprisingly, the best part of the film is the final fight between Creed and Drago. There's so much excitement to be found despite the fact that Drago looks like he outweighs Creed by like 40 pounds. Still, the final fight offers A hell of a good time, and that's hopefully a relief to a lot of you that love Rocky and even the first Creed film. The whole third act is awesome, which is why I felt like the movie was a bit uneven. It feels like a lot of the good stuff happens in Acts 2 and Acts 3, while Act 1 doesn't really offer much. Still, I found Creed to be a good film overall that's mostly satisfying, but doesn't quite reach the greatness like many of us hoped. Let's take a look at the pros cons though as we wrap up. For the pros, I thought Creed 2 offers some excellent acting performances, quality writing and character development, quality villains, and an awesome third act and final fight. As for the cons, I felt the direction wasn't always too great and even a little predictable, and the film feels a bit uneven. I'm still going to give Creed 2 an 8.5 out of 10 and recommend you check it out if you like Creed 1 or the Rocky films. It's a good film, just not quite as good or even great as I would have hoped. So did you guys see Creed 2 yet? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. Finally, I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving to all of you. I really love interacting with you guys about movies, and I always enjoy sharing my thoughts about new and old releases. I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving, and thanks again for everything. This is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next video.